All right, everyone. So this last PDF, I think, is very interesting PDF, and it reads a slightly different PDF. It gives us some insight, I think, on how to analyze and code, and it comes from Ruth Hubbard, who has written about research done by teachers for a long time. And again, one of the things that as we're coming to the end of this, and as you think over the summer about consolidating what you want to do for your research project, either be it at a capstone level or at the thesis level, um, one of the key things is that, and you're going to see this, and hopefully you'll be here on this Thursday, the 17th, and you've seen this, and the following Thursday, the 17th, when your colleagues, we're going to have five colleagues of yours that are about to graduate doing their capstone presentations as a poster, as well as the two they're doing thesis. And so what you see is that while there is a rigor, where there's academic aspect of it, obviously this is a master's program, they are all very much connected to practices they're engaged in, right? So we have a connection to improvisation, to music appreciation, to teaching with students with disabilities, to developing a methods books for strings teachers, connection with music technology and teaching in the classroom, and then we have a GMO, the Guatemala Musical Orchestra, and El Sistema, and summer camp teaching. All those are directly related to the experiences that these students have had and continue to have, their work they're doing. And of course, that will be the same case for you as well. So what kinds of things that in which you obviously are already thinking and doing. And this is all a really interesting process. And in all these videos, all this process should help you in terms of getting this final project set up, right? With all those steps and all the parts, which are here, by the way, at the end of this week's materials again, just as you receive them via email. Okay. Um, what Hooper presents, and I think that's really nice and is interesting, I would like you to read not simply the underlined parts here that help us with the video, but also to read the whole thing, because there's a different kind of language a little bit. There's something that is very accessible, that is very connected to this idea of connecting research to the daily lives of teachers. Right? And you see that what he's trying to talk about here is how he comes to a process of thinking about themes and codes and how he comes to organize the data. Right? So he's collecting this information, he's thought about what and where and what are the issues, what are the research questions, what are the problems, what is the purpose, where am I going to do this, and how and why am I going to do this. He's read the literature review. Now he's thinking about what he's been seeing, what you will do the same thing, and trying to make these connections. And you see there's an interesting story about how he brings that about through thinking these pieces of music, right, which I thought was very interesting. And then he says, well, here's some strategies of how to think about this. Right, one of the strategies is that we're starting to think right away, and that's what we're trying to do now. Is trying to think right away how I'm going to collect data. What are the important things? What are the questions I really should ask? Who are the people that I should investigate? What is the best option for me? All right. So if in case, for instance, Glenda is trying to look at a charter school, they might not allow her to do that. So what are my other options? What are the kinds of similar cases? Or, could I compare a couple, right? So there's always this, you're thinking about and planning about the design and how you're going to collect right from the beginning. And you see that she talks about a certain things, and that helps later on. How I index my notes, right? How I start organizing, again, the coding. Right, so it talks about that, and then the third page you see that kind of research plan, so to speak, which is something that you could use here, and that is the purpose of your final project, right? It's a more complex, detailed version of what you see here on page 3. But it's again the same thing. What is your question? Right? What are the procedures, the time frame, how are you going to gather information, who are the people, right? What you're going to do. That's going to be in the methods. How are you going to analyze that? What's the purpose? Why is there a problem that you're trying to address? Right, so if you go into the next one, you see that he starts organizing and give some examples actually of how patterns and themes are starting to emerge from field notes, but that can happen also from journals, from interviews, from videotapes, all those kinds of things. We saw last week about how people engage with kind of even softwares to bring all these kinds of data together. And the software helps facilitate somebody, you, the researcher, to make sense of all these things, right? And this is also a kind of more specific ways of making sense. And as you go to the next page, you see that how Huberg is suggesting that we adapt the kinds of things that we already do in the classroom, right? That we do in the private studio, that we do in our daily work activities. And we do that all the time, Kathy and I. We try to think about an issue. So if we're taking notes, or if we're doing an assignment, or if we're doing part of our teaching preparation that I know might be linking to a research project, I'm always kind of trying to merge the two and kind of figure out ways in which what I'm doing in my teaching can help with my research, right? And you see an example here, how the idea of record keeping that can help in the process of collecting and figuring out data. And then the last part is thinking, which I think is very helpful. And as you're thinking through this process between now and the next few weeks, finishing up your project, and as you go into the summer, I think it's very, very important that you consider how to, schematically think about this, kind of visually think about what you're doing. And here you see how series of data from a survey, an interview, anecdotal roster, right? All this serve as a triangulation, and this person does a visual representation of that triangulation. Starts with anecdotal, kind of things that are just heard, experienced, but they're not a whole lot of data. So that's kind of floating there at the top. And then I have very specific things that I try to triangulate, right? Again, something that we heard over and over. The process of validity, the formation and structure of validity, comes out of all these efforts, right? So that at the end I have something that is strong, that is valid, that's where I really, what I think I saw, I can actually show that actually took place, right? And that's the central thing of a study that has validity. Okay, enough videos. Hopefully you've seen and you kind of read all this, and kind of go back now after you heard the videos and kind of take another look at this and keep on thinking and working toward getting your final project in place. See you later.